Hi, I'm Dr. Amy French. I'm the director of the Humanities Learning Center at Delta College and also a history professor there. And I'm delighted to take you in a little back to the past today. We're going to go on a little historical voyage thanks to a person whom I'm privileged to call colleague and friend, Judge Fred Borchard. And Judge Borchard, he's a talented and respected judge. He's a humanitarian, he's a lover of history, and he sits with me on the executive committee of the board of directors for the Historical Society of Saginaw County. And a lot of history, in fact, from a lot of time, history, one of the main ways that historians learn about the past is through oral tradition, through stories that are passed on. So I'm happy to take you guys down that road with me today and talk about this story and share the oral tradition that Judge Borchard shared with me and now be able to share it with you guys. And so it'll take us back to a time where Michigan itself had just become a state. It said the Saginaw Valley region does not have a lot of settlement yet. There aren't many people who are really starting trade here, but it's there. It's at the cusp. And so without further ado, I'm going to share my screen here with you so that you can see some pictures. These pictures you'll see here. Of course, photography isn't around in 1841, so some of these will be drawings. Some of them are maybe not periods of the time, but they'll give you an idea and something to look at while I share Judge Borchard's tale with you that had been told to him. So without further ado, here it goes. At the time the first criminal case in Saginaw County was recorded, Saginaw was being described as the last vestige of civilization on the edge of a vast wilderness, and getting to Saginaw was still an arduous journey. The first criminal trial in Saginaw that took place in 1841 and turned into quite a story. A resident by the name of William McDonald traded in furs at a place called the Old Red Warehouse. He received a cargo of goods in a boat commanded by one Captain West. One of the sailors on that boat was William Bunnell. Mr. Bunnell lived in Saginaw for a number of years. In addition, there was another sailor by the name of Desalia and a young Englishman. While unloading cargo from the boat, the crew had free access to the warehouse cellar where the goods were stored. On the last day that the boat was at dock, Bunnell found a box containing $800 worth of silver coins that McDonald had hidden in a barrel partially filled with trash. Bunnell had told the crew members what he had heard, and they conspired to steal the money and take it on board. To keep everyone silent, it was agreed the ship's mate be included, and the money would be split 4 ways between the 3 sailors and the ship's mate. However, when the money was divided, the Englishman and the shipmate had $130 each, and Bunnell and Desalia had the rest. The theft was soon discovered, and suspicion rested on the crew. No arrests were made until the following winter, when the Englishman confessed to a judge in Detroit. Subsequently, the mate and Desalia were arrested and held for trial. Bunnell, then in Saginaw, disappeared. The sheriff believed he was hiding someplace in Saginaw, and a search was started. Bunnell had taken refuge in a woodcutter shanty on the east side of the river, and at daybreak had kindled a fire to thaw out his moccasins. When he heard the approach of the posse, Bunnell then, carrying his moccasins, fled barefoot and might have escaped, except for ice and snow crusting on his feet and cutting them. He surrendered and was taken to Jewett's Tavern where his feet were dressed. The sheriff, Henry Pratt, agreed to let Bunnell stay at the tavern until he was well enough to be transported to the Genesee County Jail, and a guard was posted at the door of the room where Bunnell was staying. The night before Bunnell was scheduled to leave, his brother and sister and his wife were admitted for a final visit. About 9 o'clock, the sister left the room, leaning heavily on the arm of her brother, apparently stricken with grief over her brother's fate. A short time later, the sheriff went to the door to tell the wife she had to leave. When the sheriff opened the door, it was reported he was greeted with laughter by the brother and the wife, who told him Bunnell had escaped earlier and had ridden away on a horse. To fool the guard, Bunnell had dressed in his sister's long dress and bonnet. Bunnell went first to Bay City and found hiding places in Native American camps until summer, when he made his way to La Crosse, Wisconsin. He was never brought to trial for the theft of the money. The sheriff arrested the wife on the charge of assisting a prisoner to escape. The hearing was held before 3 justices of the peace, and the courtroom was crowded by men. When the justices ruled she had to be bound over to circuit court for trial and post bond for her appearance, Every man in the court offered to be her bondsman. Bail was provided and she was never brought to trial and the matter was dropped. It was reported she later joined her husband in La Crosse, Wisconsin. The Englishman, Desalia, the other two sailors, were brought to trial in Saginaw before Judge Whipple and were found guilty by a jury. The Englishman had turned state's evidence and was sentenced to 3 years at hard labor. Desalia also received 3 years in prison and seemed to accept the sentence with composure. Later, he was seen weeping and was asked if he considered the sentence too harsh. He shook his head no and said, "But the disgrace of being tried by such a hard-looking jury is what grieves me." I think that is just, it's a wonderful story. And it's a great way to, how historians, a lot of our work, is it's just telling stories. It's in the word, right? It's history. And so thank you to Judge Fred Borchard for bringing out this story. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day.